So basically, a central bank digital currency is not the digital dollars that you operate in today. It really has nothing in common except that it's going to enable you to buy things at the store and send money to one another. The important thing is how. How is it going to work? So what they're planning here, the trick is that it is programmable money that is entirely centralized, and it is going to be controlled 100% by your federal government. You will not have a bank that you go into necessarily, or if you do, the bank is actually going to be representative of the federal government, and the bank would just be nothing but a false storefront. And so the challenge here, in that it's programmable money, it means that they can turn it off, shut it down at will if they don't like what you posted, what you tweeted, what you said, what you did, or basically they don't like the look of the nose on your face. And who is they? Well, it's anybody that works inside the government, who to you would more often than not be faceless and nameless. And so the challenge, of course, is that if they were to shut you out of your account or deny you reasonable access to your funds when you wanted it and for the purposes that you wanted it, then you're not going to be left with any recourse, because generally speaking, there's this legal rule that the government is immune from lawsuits from private citizens, that there has to be written into the law a private right of action for you to have the permission to be able to go in and enforce your rights against the government. And a lot of government agencies, and especially law enforcement, well, they've got immunity for the behavior unless it is specifically written into the code. And so this is a major problem. So we're seeing this in central bank digital currencies that are being issued in various jurisdictions around the world, the most notable of which would be the Chinese social credit system. And so if you do not behave, they'll be able to shut you out of your account, lock you out of your account, and deny you access to your funds. And I see that we're headed in this direction anyway. I do kind of lean towards the conspiracy theories, and I do see how Congress is intentionally spinning us into a situation of hyperinflation, which means you're going to continue to pay more for your goods and services, because the money that Congress is churning out of the banking system is not making it into your pockets. It's making it straight into the pockets of the elite and the corporate fat cats, who are enjoying bigger profits than they ever have, and they're enjoying it at the lowest wages comparably than we have seen in this nation for half a century. And so all of the cards are stacked against you. We see that the interest rates are sky high, that the cost of housing is through the roof, and that the only folks that can afford it are the big venture capital companies that are buying up these properties left and right, holding on to them, and then renting them back to you. And so what the plan is, of course, here is, if I'm right, and what I foresee is happening is, and I've unfortunately been on the money for the past 8 years since I launched into the study of cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and fintech. But basically the plan is to spin us into a hyperinflation, put us into a position as a people to where we are begging for some sort of relief. They're going to come in with this central bank digital currency and say that this is going to be our savior, because they're going to argue that it's de-inflationary, but it's actually not. And then at that same time, I anticipate they're going to roll out or reinstate many of the features of artificial intelligence, commercially available tools that we saw back in November, December, and January of this year. November, December of last year, which would have been 2023, January, February of this year. I've noticed in the past 2 to 3 months that the functionality of these commercially available tools for ChatGPT-4, Claude, Google's Bard/Gemini, they changed the name, right, are in the crapper. They have put so many guardrails on it that it's just essentially unusable. I can't get it to do anything, and neither can anybody else that I know. It's like pulling teeth. It's incredibly lazy. It refuses. It says that it can't do it. It won't answer the question asked, right? And so it's regressed substantially, but, definitely it has not regressed in the lab. So it's only regressed from the perspective of our perspective and using it as a tool. And so basically, as AI is rolled out in big corporate America, our jobs are eliminated. We're suffering from hyperinflation, and we're going to be positioned into a position of desperation. And they're going to roll this out, and they're going to say, this is your chance, right? This is going to be the new financial system. And it's very, very dangerous for all of the aforementioned reasons, because it's going to put you in a position of being controlled and manipulated by a bunch of nameless, faceless drones that you cannot identify, that work behind like some sort of curtain, and you don't really know who's pulling the strings, and you don't necessarily automatically have the rights to enforce right? Your ownership over your funds when you need them and for the purposes that you need them. And so they told us that this is what they were going to do. The World Economic Forum told us that this is what their plan was, is that we're going to own nothing and be happy. And I see how they're maneuvering us, and they're going to put us into this position that when we're ousted by the introduction of like actual functioning artificial intelligence, we're going to be ousted out of our jobs. We're going to be offered universal basic income, and to participate, this is what we're going to have to participate in. So we can talk about this. We can talk about private rights of actions. We can talk about, the arguments in favor of central bank digital currencies, that it's allegedly going to resolve all of the problems with crime and human trafficking and money laundering and terrorist financing, and why it is that I think that that is a bunch of baloney, right? It is lipstick on a pig. So tell me what it is that you want to talk about next. Drop it into the comments, and let's get this conversation going.